It's Tuesday, so that means it's time for another top 10 video. Well, yesterday I did give you a top 15 on my top 15 monsters from Kobold Press's Tome of Beasts 2. Today, I'm going to be giving you a top 5, so that equals out to 2 top 10 videos if you think about it, with my top 10 D&D 5e Celestial monsters. So if you want to see what the rules are and all that good stuff, stay tuned. Celestials, another vastly unrepresented creature type in 5th edition. What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I pretty much just said it, but yeah, there are, as it stands, officially published in a Wizards of the Coast created content for 5th edition, 22 celestial creatures. That's it. And even it's even smaller than that because a handful of those are actual NPCs with the celestial type, one of those being like Aurelia, the leader of the Boros Legion from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. And there are a couple others. And if you really don't love angels, there's really even less 5th edition monsters for you. So that's why I'm only giving you my top 5, as I really just wasn't interested in almost any of these. And when I do these top 10s, I'm usually giving you my opinion, not the best or the most powerful. And my patrons voted, so I'm doing this video. But yeah, I wish there was more better celestial creatures or more interesting ones. So I picked the 5 that I like the most to give you in this video. Number 5. Unicorn. I don't think I really need to explain what a unicorn is. I think most of you know. The only downside I'd say about a unicorn is its challenge rating. I thought they were higher than challenge rating 5 for some reason, but they are, and they have some cool abilities here. They can do a bunch of different neat things like healing and teleporting and casting certain spells, which is cool. One of those being Pass Without Trace at will. So again, if you can get a unicorn on your side, that's pretty good stealthing, even though it is a unicorn. They do also have lair effects, which they're one of the more interesting low-level creatures that has access to, or low CR creatures with legendary actions and lairs, which is something kind of unique to them. The only thing I really wish they had is like older D&D editions had a unicorn and they had a celestial charger, which is a significantly stronger, higher level unicorn. And I wish that we had one of those in 5th edition, rather. And I love unicorns, so I'm happy to see them in here. I would have liked to seen again more abilities or more variability in the types of unicorns available to you. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think I need to explain it much further. I also love Mieliki, the forest goddess, and her symbol is a unicorn. So more unicorn love in 5th edition. What's up, wizards? Come on. Number 4. One of the newest introduced monsters to 5th edition is the Winged Lion. This was brought to us in Mythic Odysseys of Theros. Unfortunately, too, also kind of a travesty, we don't have an image or art for a Winged Lion, which seems like a bummer. These are challenge rating 4 celestial creatures. They're pretty tough, right? 114 hit points, decent run and fly speed. They have pounce like lions have, and then a claw and a bite. They're nothing too crazy though. 2d10 on the bite, 2d8 on the claw. I didn't feel like I needed to go over the stats of the unicorn because they've been around forever and everybody knows what they are. And it just basically says Archons always ride into battle on fearsome winged mounts. And one of the options here is a Winged Lion. Again, not too much lore on these guys either, but there you go. Number 3. The Hollyphant. This creature was introduced in Baldur's Gate Descended to Avernus, and it is adorable. It has some pretty interesting abilities, right? So they are a small celestial creature native to the upper planes, and it's just a luminous golden elephant with small wings that let it zip around real fast, which, by the way, it has 120-foot fly speed on this guy. Resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing attacks, immunity to poison, and it has probably one of the strongest abilities in the Aura of Invulnerability. A 10-foot radius sphere is formed around it. Any 5th level or lower spell cast from outside the barrier can't affect it. Even if it's a lower level spell cast at above 5th level, it does not work. Similarly, the area within the barrier is excluded from areas affected by such spells. It can use an action to suppress it if it wants to. It has innate spellcasting, a lot of clerical spells here, right? Light, Bless, Cure Wounds, Protection from Evil and Good. banishment, heal, raise dead. These are all once a day. And shape change into a golden furred mammoth with feathery wings and 120-foot fly speed, which is terrifying because if you look at a mammoth stat block and add 120-foot fly speed to it, that's crazy. And then teleport with no chance of error. Magic weapons, its attacks are magical. It has its tusks, which just do a simple d6 piercing damage. And then its trumpet ability, which you can use 3 times a day. That can be heard out to 600 feet and creates a 30-foot cone of energy in front of it that either is a blasting cone or blasting trumpet, which is a DC 14 con save or take 5d6 thunder damage and be deafened. On a success, the creature takes half and is not deafened, and non-magical objects in the cone that aren't being held or worn take 10d6 thunder damage. Or my favorite one, the Trumpet of Sparkles. Creatures in that area must make a DC 14 con save or take 4d8 plus 4 radiant damage on a failed save or half on a success. Evil creatures have disadvantage on the saving throw. Good creatures take no damage. What does that call it here? It unleashes a trumpet blast from its trunk that can deafen creatures or engulf evildoers in radiant sparkles of positive energy. So yeah, they're adorable. I think there's a named one in Baldur's Gate Descended to Avernus. Can't remember her name or his name off the top of my head, but there is one in there as well. And this is again another unique, cute celestial monster. And the next one is a little bit different from what we're used to seeing. Number 2. The Deathpact Angel. This, in my mind, is probably the pinnacle of one of the coolest non-traditional Celestials we have in all of 5th edition. This was introduced in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. This is a challenge rating 14 creature here. It has a bunch of resistances: Necrotic, Radiant, Bludgeoning, Piercing from non-magical attacks, Charmed, Exhausted, and Frightened. It has True Sight out to 120 feet. It has Exploitation of the Debtors. As a bonus action, the angel targets a creature charmed by it within 30 feet. They take 2d10 necrotic damage, and the angel gains temporary hit points equal to that damage. They have the Flyby ability, so they can move in, make opportunity attacks, and not provoke, or make an attack and not provoke opportunity attacks as they leave. Innate spellcasting of Command at 2nd level, Detect Evil and Good at will, both of those. 3 times a day, Charm Person as 5th level spell, and Darkness and Suggestion, and then once a day, Raise Dead. Its attacks are magical. It can make 2 attacks with its Scythe. It can then substitute Chains of Obligation for one of these attacks. It can substitute Chains of Obligations for one of those. Its Scythe, the reach of 10 feet, does 2d4 plus 4 slashing and 68 necrotic. Or it can use Chains of Obligation. It targets one charmed creature within 30 or 90 feet of it, and they must make a DC 19 charisma saving throw or become paralyzed for a minute or until they take damage. And they have interesting backgrounds too. So they pose as a beneficent god. They attract petitioners who beg for blessings, wealth, revenge, and so on. And then again, imagining itself generous and merciful, it usually tries to grant what they seek by using its abilities, drawing from its hoard of riches or extorting favors from other members. Again, it says of the guild because we're talking Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. It doesn't bestow these gifts out of kindness, but for the sake of gaining financial followers who owe life debts. And it says, those who receive favors from a Deathpact Angel incur a debt that they carry with fervent devotion. They will regularly bring trinkets and offerings to the angel, no longer expecting anything in return, even willing to offer up their mortal lives for their angelic patron. Even after death, these debtors continue to serve the angel as indentured spirits. And the art is just super cool. I love it. It's very much like the dark, evil angel concept. And I think that that's, again, something we don't have a lot of dark creatures like this, or just generically interesting celestials. And this, in my mind, is one of the ones that does the best job. Number 1. Couatl. I've always really loved these creatures, and ever since I first saw them, I think back in the 3.5 book, I always thought they were super cool. Because it's a snake, so like snakes typically have more like demonic or devil connotation, but it's a snake with like feathered wings, and it's an angel type creature, and it's a lawful good. Challenge rating 4, it can speak all languages, has telepathy, resistant to radiant damage, and an immunity to psychic and non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Has several spellcasting abilities: detect evil and good, detect magic, detect thoughts at will. 3 times a day of bless, create food and water, cure wounds, and so on here. And then dream, greater restoration, and scrying. Its attacks are magic, and it is immune to scrying. anything that would sense its emotions. It can make a bite attack that does piercing damage and make a con save or be poisoned. It can constrict for 2d6 plus 3, and that's a grapple and a restrain. And then it can also change its shape to be any humanoid or beast. It keeps its game stats, and then, but its AC, movement mode, strength, and dex, and other things are replaced by the new form, like a typical change shape abilities. They also have a really interesting lore. It says brilliantly colored wings and gentle manner to speak to their celestial origins, or speak to their celestial origins. They were created originally, this is probably the most interesting part, as guardians and caretakers by a benevolent god not worshipped since the dawn of time, and which is forgotten now by all but the Couatls themselves. That could be a very interesting plot hook for a campaign you're running. Since most of the divine mandates given to them have long since been fulfilled or have failed, a number of Couatl still watch out over ancient power, await fulfillment of prophecy, or safeguard the heirs of creatures they once guided and protected. Regardless of their task, they prefer to remain hidden, revealing themselves only as a last resort. It says they can't lie, but they can obviously extort the truth by not speaking or speaking circularly around things, but they can't outrightly lie. It says there's only a few. They can even survive without air, but they still die of disease or the passage of time. They also get to know, they can sense their own death a century beforehand, but they don't get to know how it's going to happen. If they've already done what they've been set out to do, they accept their fate, no problem. However, if death endangers the completion of their goals, they will seek out another Couatl to produce offspring. That says the mating ritual is an elaborate and beautiful dance of magic and light, and the result is a gem-like egg with the new Couatl hatches from. And the parent that sought out the mate raises the newborn and instructs it as to its duties, so complete whatever task the parent leaves unfinished. Again, another interesting option for a character hook, right? Whether they're trying to help a Couatl find a mate, maybe they find a Couatl egg, which would probably be even more interesting. You find a Couatl egg, and then its whole thing is to continue on the task that its parents started. But now it's yours because you hatched it. Maybe the parents died or something, and now you've got this Couatl egg. When it hatches, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. Interesting concepts for character creation. Plus, I like snakes, and this is a winged cool. Sometimes in previous editions they've shown to have rainbow wings, because I think there was a rainbow servant, prestige class in old editions that you could eventually grow Couatl wings, which is neat. So anyway, folks, that's my top 5 celestial creatures. The next monster book we get from Wizards of the Coast, I think, definitely needs fae and celestial creatures at the forefront. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. The Kickstarter that I'm a part of from Jetpack 7, Blackstorm Realms, is still ongoing. There'll be a link in the description if you'd like to back that Kickstarter. We are deep into stretch goals, but we still have a few days left to earn a couple more things. I also have my 50K giveaway going on, where you can win all sorts of cool prizes, like different gift cards from a variety of different sites, these really neat custom Nerd Immersion hex chests that are signed by me, engraved with my signature on the back, as well as a chance to win a one-shot run by me for you and up to 4 of your friends. Link to that in the description as well. Thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for continuing to support me and for voting on today's topic. And I will see you all next time.